Hey guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another true crime episode here on my YouTube channel. As you guys can tell by the title of today's video, today we are discussing the Kenneka Jenkins case. This has always been a case that I've been very interested in covering and learning more information on, so I was really excited to really dive into it this week. And I'm also extremely curious to hear what you guys have to say about it, so definitely let me know your theories by the end of this episode. And I do want to mention that if you enjoy podcasts and want to listen to this video in podcast form or any of my other true crime episodes here that I have on my channel, and there are actually some podcast episodes that haven't been put into video form on my channel, so there are a couple bonus episodes over there that you can check out as well. I have a true crime podcast called Killer Instinct. It's always linked in the description box below, but you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So with that being said, let's just jump right on into today's case. So this is Kenneka Jenkins. Kenneka was born on September 15th, 1998 to her mother, Teresa Martin. Kenneka graduated from Voice High School, and back in 2017, she had actually gotten a job at a nursing home. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find too much information about who Kenneka was as a person. To me, that's just a very crucial part of a case. I always like to let you guys in on who this person was, who their personality was. This does not define who they are as a person, so I always like to look at the bigger picture and see who this person was outside of what happened to them. However, when it came to Kenneka's case, I wasn't really able to find any of that information. So because of that, we are going to jump straight to Friday, September 8th, 2017. So Kenneka lived in Rosemont, Illinois, and on September 8th, 2017, there was a party being thrown at a hotel called the Crowne Plaza Hotel. This hotel was also located in Rosemont, and Kenneka did not tell her mother that she was going to this party this night. She actually told her mom that her, as well as 3 other friends, were going to go bowling and go see a movie to celebrate Kenneka getting this new job at a nursing home. This was not the actual plan though. In typical teenage fashion, Kenneka did not want her mom knowing that she was going to this hotel party. Kenneka was 19 years old at this point. So she probably knew that this party was going to involve drinking, and she didn't want her mom to overreact or worry too much or just tell her that she couldn't go in general. So instead of telling her where she was actually going, she told her that she was going to go catch a movie and go bowling with some of her friends. Kenneka and her friends left Kenneka's house at about 11:30 p.m. on September 8th, 2017. They actually ended up taking Kenneka's mom's car to drive to this party. They were going to drive to the party and they were going to drive back. That was their plan. Now, when the girls got into the car, they decided to make a quick pit stop. They decided to stop off somewhere and grab a couple items that they thought that they might need that night. These items included a Bluetooth speaker, it included alcohol, Hennessy in specific, it also included marijuana and some energy drinks. After stopping off to grab those items, Kenneka and her friends are seen entering the Crowne Plaza Hotel at about 1:13 a.m. So now we move on to the very early morning hours of September 9th, and Kenneka and her friends are seen walking through the side entrance of the Crowne Plaza Hotel. At 1:30 a.m., so just a little bit over 15 minutes after the girls had arrived to the party, Kenneka had sent a text message to her sister, and the context of that message I'm unsure about. However, that would be the last time that Kenneka would have any contact with her family ever again. So this party that was being held at the Crowne Plaza Hotel was being held on the 9th floor in room 927. According to some of the people who were at the party, there were about 30 to 40 people who attended this party, and this party was being held in one hotel room, room 927, because typically with hotel rooms, they're set for a 4-person max occupancy when it comes to sleeping. You can get around that by adding a 5th, 6th, 7th person sometimes, but you're going to be a little bit crammed in there. You can imagine 30 to 40 people being in a one hotel room, and because of this, obviously they couldn't all fit in the hotel, so some of the people who were in attendance at this party ended up trickling into the hallway and hanging out a little bit there. So you had people in the hotel room and in the hallway, and there was at least one noise complaint that night for this party. However, the party was never shut down. Now, Kenneka was in attendance at this party in room 927, and the people who saw her there stated that she was drinking this night. She was drinking a pretty heavy amount, and she wasn't smoking. She was never seen smoking any weed or doing any drugs, but she was seen drinking a pretty decent amount of alcohol. Now, from my understanding, this party was being thrown thrown in the first place because it was a birthday party. There was a girl who went on Facebook Live at about 1:36 a.m., so just a little bit over 15 minutes after the girls had arrived to the hotel. And this girl went on Facebook Live and she gets told happy birthday by someone in the background who compliments her appearance and tells her she looks really pretty, and she says thank you. So this more than likely was a birthday party for this girl. Now on this Facebook Live, you can see Kenneka in the background. You see her with her friends. She seems like she's having a good time. And throughout the rest of the night, there were multiple stories posted on Instagram and Snapchat that Kenneka was involved in. She was in multiple different people's stories that night. One in particular was on her friend's story that was posted at 2:17 a.m. that appeared to be in the hotel room's bathroom. And at that point, nothing about her behavior seemed too alarming to anyone. So now we move on to about 3 a.m. So the girls had been at this party for about an hour and 45 minutes, and they decide that it's time for them to call it a night. So Kenneka and her 3 friends leave room 927 and head towards the elevator. Now when they get to the elevator, Kenneka informs her friends that she actually left her cell phone and her car keys back in room 927. So instead of one of the girls staying with Kenneka and 2 of the girls going back into the party, or someone going with Kenneka back into the party, or all of them going together, it's decided among the friend group that Kenneka should stay at the elevator by herself and wait for all 3 of her friends to go back into this party, retrieve Kenneka's belongings, and bring them back to the elevator so they could all leave together. This particular choice, this particular incident has sparked a lot of controversy in this case. When I read this, it reminded me of the Savannah Spurlock case when Savannah's friend had ended up leaving her at the bar and gone off and gone home because Savannah wanted to stay there. When I read this part of Kenneka's case, it really reminded me of that because the logic of it doesn't really make sense. If there's 3 friends plus Kenneka and Kenneka's belongings are in the hotel room, why are all 3 of the friends leaving Kenneka at the elevator and going back in? There were reports that there were some guys at the party who were trying to make advances at some of the girls, and maybe they thought that they had strength in numbers by going in and just grabbing the belongings, but why leave Kenneka at the elevator by herself? Why wouldn't one of them just stay with her? But regardless, all 3 girls ended up leaving Kenneka at the elevator and going back into the party to retrieve her things. The girls were in the hotel room collecting Kenneka's belongings for about 10 to 15 minutes, and by the time they came back to the elevator, Kenneka was gone. When Kenneka's friends got back to the elevator and saw that she was gone, they were really thrown off. They had no idea where she went. They didn't know if she went off with someone. They didn't know if she went down to the lobby and walked out of the hotel. And remember, Kenneka was pretty intoxicated at this point, and her friends had her cell phone because they went into the room to grab it. So when they realized that Kenneka is nowhere to be found, the girls start searching. And the girls searching throughout this hotel is all on surveillance. So the girls are seen on surveillance looking for Kenneka everywhere. They're seen looking at each other and kind of going like this as if they're like, I don't know where she is. The girls are seen looking all throughout the lobby. They're looking down hallways, but they are unable to find Kenneka anywhere. So because of that, at about 4:02 a.m., the girls decide to call Teresa because they thought maybe it's a possibility that while we were in the room gathering Kenneka's belongings, she went down to the lobby and asked the receptionist to call her a cab so she could go home. Maybe she was confused and thought because all 3 of her friends went back into the party that they were leaving her and that she had no way to get home, so maybe she got a cab and maybe she just ended up going back home. However, when the girls got in contact with Teresa, Teresa informed them that Kenneka never came home that night. After this phone call, the girls hang up with Teresa and they continue their search. At one point they're seen walking up to the receptionist desk and asking the man working at the receptionist, which there's no audio, so there's no telling what the exact words were. However, the receptionist ended up kind of making like a this motion and pointing off to the right. So based off the context, it kind of makes you assume that he's saying maybe he either saw her heading in the right direction or there's an area on the right that they haven't looked at yet. So after talking to this receptionist, the girls are seen walking in that direction, however, are still unable to find Kenneka. So that is when a couple minutes later, the girls decide to walk out to the car. They decide to walk out to Teresa's car because that was the car that was driven to the hotel to see if maybe Kenneka ended up stumbling out to the car and waiting for the girls there. However, she was not there either. So after going out to the car and realizing that Kenneka still was not out there, the girls ended up making their way down to the lower level of this hotel. I'm unsure if it was the receptionist who made them aware of this lower level or how they thought to get there, but the lower level of this hotel, just to give you an idea of it, it basically is where the more business operations side of the hotel is kept. At the Crowne Plaza, there was a stairway that led from the lobby to the lower level. The lower level was below the lobby. That's why it's called the lower level. And a lot of hotels have them. They're typically marked LL on elevators. And for the Crowne Plaza, the lower level is where there was a lot of different conference rooms held. There were some offices down there. There were bathrooms, there were auditoriums, and there were also 2 kitchens down there as well. So Kenneka's friends are seen on surveillance footage going down into the lower level. They look around the lower level for a little bit. They don't do a very extensive search because there are signs all across the lower level that basically said employees only, do not enter, staff only, things like that, to indicate that this level was strictly for the employees who worked for the hotel. But Kenneka's friends did kind of just vaguely browse over the area. They went into the bathroom and checked the bathroom to see if Kenneka was in there. However, when she wasn't in there, the girls then went back upstairs to the main lobby. So the gist of this part of the case is the fact that Kenneka's friends did look for her. They scoured this hotel. They looked high and low. They were looking for her everywhere, and they weren't able to find her. So at about 5 a.m. on September 9th, the girls decided to get into the car and drive to Kenneka's home, which is where Teresa lived. When the girls got there, they informed Teresa that they had been looking for Kenneka for the past couple hours. They weren't able to find her anywhere, and that is when Teresa decided that she was going to get in the car with the girls and drive over to the Crowne Plaza Hotel herself to do her own searching. So when Teresa arrived to the Crowne Plaza, she immediately went up to the front desk. She informed the person working at the front desk of the situation. She said, you know, my daughter Kenneka, she's missing. She was last seen in this hotel. She hasn't been seen for a couple hours. Can you look on your surveillance footage? Because if you look on the surveillance, we'll be able to see if she left the hotel, if she went into a different room, if she wandered off somewhere. We'll just be able to see what ended up happening so we could find her. Now, when Teresa said this to the person working at the front desk, Teresa said she felt very dismissed by this person because the woman working the front desk essentially told Teresa that she basically couldn't show Teresa the surveillance footage because that is police matters. Teresa would need to file a missing persons report in order for the authorities to look into the surveillance footage. So I want to mention, because I watched Stephanie Harlow, who, if you are unfamiliar with her, she's an amazing true crime YouTuber. I love watching her videos. I love the way she presents and the way she tells a case, and she goes into so much detail, and she's great. And so when I was watching her cover this case, she had said that she had worked in retail before, and when it came to the surveillance footage, with her position, she wasn't able to look at the surveillance footage if need be. However, the person that would be able to do so was always just a quick phone call away. So it does make you question, did this person not want to look into the surveillance footage and not want to call their supervisor because they didn't think it was a big deal? Or was it actually that the police were the ones that had to look at it? There's just a lot of questions, but I thought I would throw out what Stephanie said about that because I thought that to be very interesting and telling. So after kind of feeling like she had been blown off by this receptionist, Teresa decided to start looking through the Crowne Plaza Hotel herself. She started looking all throughout the floors. She looked through the lobby. She looked outside the hotel, inside the hotel. She did the search that the girls had done earlier that night as well. And at about 7:15 a.m. is when Teresa decided that she needed to file a missing persons report for Kenneka. Because remember, Kenneka didn't have her cell phone. Kenneka didn't have her car keys. She was under the influence. A young, missing, intoxicated person is always a scary thing to think about because your mind automatically goes to all the different things that could have possibly happened to her. So Teresa didn't want to waste any time, and that is when she called 911 to file a missing persons report. Now, similar to when she talked to the receptionist, Teresa also felt very dismissed by the 911 operator as well. When Teresa called 911 and basically said that she needed to file a missing persons report for her daughter and explained the story, she had gone out to a party, she'd been drinking, she's missing, we can't find her. The 911 operator basically told Teresa that she's probably just off sleeping off the alcohol somewhere. Give it a couple hours, I'm sure she'll turn up, and if she doesn't, then give us a call back after 24 hours and we'll file a missing persons report. Obviously, Teresa was very frustrated by this because she knows her daughter. She knows that her daughter would not just walk off and sleep it off somewhere. And I know some of you might be sitting there saying, well, she didn't tell her mom that she was going to the party, or maybe it was like her behavior. It's parental instinct. And Teresa knew that this was not something that Kenneka would do. So now we're still on September 9th, but we fast forward a little bit over 12 hours after Teresa tried to file a missing persons report, and the authorities at 8:30 p.m. actually arrived to the Crowne Plaza Hotel, but not for the reason that you would think. Authorities didn't arrive to the Crowne Plaza Hotel to help Teresa to file a missing persons report or to help her look for her daughter. The authorities arrived to the Crowne Plaza Hotel because hotel staff and management had actually called the authorities on Kenneka's family, because all throughout that day, Kenneka's friends and family were searching all throughout the hotel. They were passing out flyers to different people asking if they had seen Kenneka. They even went as far as pulling the fire alarm, which is really smart, pulling the fire alarm to see if Kenneka would walk out of the building or if someone who had Kenneka would walk out of the building. So hotel staff and management actually called the authorities on Kenneka's family because they were causing a disturbance to their hotel. So when the police got there, they actually ended up talking to Teresa, who basically told them the entire story. And after hearing this, authorities went into room 927 where the party had been held at the night prior. They looked around the room and they said there wasn't really anything in that room that suggested foul play or that was off-putting. So authorities essentially told Teresa that if she or any of Kenneka's friends and family came up with any new information, to give them a call back and they will be there to assist her. Isn't that their job? So now we move on to the early morning hours of September 10th, 2017. And by early morning hours, I'm talking just a little bit past midnight. And I want to digress a little bit and kind of go back to the lower level of the hotel that I was talking about, where more of the business operations sides of the hotel happens. I told you guys that there were offices down there, conference rooms, auditoriums, but there were also 2 kitchens down there. Now, the reason there were 2 kitchens is because the hotel was doing some renovations. They were actually adding another restaurant to the hotel. So when they did that, they also decided to add another kitchen. That way they would be able to have just more kitchen space and be more productive and things like that. So at this time, one of the kitchens was being used by the restaurant in the hotel, where all the cooking happened, all the preparing, everything that revolved around serving food happened in this kitchen. And then you had the second kitchen, and the second kitchen was the kitchen that was built for the new restaurant. At this time, this kitchen was not being used by anyone. It was a finished kitchen, but there was no produce in there was no food in there, people weren't working in there. It was completely empty. And this second kitchen also had a walk-in freezer. And even though the kitchen at this time, this second kitchen, was not in use, the walk-in freezer actually was. So the walk-in freezer was turned on at this point. And the hotel said that the reason this walk-in freezer was turned on was because if they needed any extra storage space or needed to put anything in the freezer from the other restaurant but didn't have enough room in that kitchen, they wanted to be able to store any fresh produce that they needed in this walk-in freezer, which was why it was turned on at this time. So on the early morning hours of September 10th, 2017, the assistant food and beverage manager is seen on surveillance walking into this second kitchen. Now, unfortunately, the surveillance doesn't show the entire kitchen. It shows just a certain portion of the kitchen right up until the walk-in freezer. So you don't fully see the walk-in freezer on the surveillance tape, but because it is so close, you do kind of see shadows and figures moving when the door opens and shuts. So the assistant food and beverage manager walks into this kitchen on the early morning hours of September 10th, and he is seen walking back to the right-hand corner of this kitchen, which is where the walk-in freezer is, and his shadow is seen opening the door. And when he did that, he discovered Kenneka Jenkins' body lying on the floor of this freezer. After discovering Kenneka's body, this man quickly called the authorities, and authorities arrived on the scene. The medical examiner was also brought in, and they determined that there was no cardiac activity coming from Kenneka, and therefore she was pronounced dead. Now, when Kenneka's body was discovered, she had no visible injuries, no visible trauma, no anything. And when the autopsy was conducted, the only 2 injuries that were found were an abrasion to her ankle, because one of her shoes was actually found off of her foot. So there was an abrasion to her ankle, and the second injury was a contusion on her right leg. However, after that, there were no internal or external injuries on Kenneka's body. Authorities also wanted to run a toxicology report on Kenneka, and when they did that, the toxicology results came back by saying that in Kenneka's system, there was caffeine, there was alcohol, and there was a trace of a drug, and this drug is called Topiramate. Now, Topiramate is a medication, and it's a medication that people who have epilepsy use. It's supposed to help with seizures. People who have migraines are also known to take this medication, and some of the other things that it's known to do, it can help with weight loss, it can help with your mood, it can help with PTSD, bipolar. There's a whole bunch of things that this medication can do, but the main thing that it is used for is for seizures and epilepsy, and Kenneka did not have epilepsy. Now, similar to basically all medications, Topiramate does have a lot of side effects, and I'm going to read them over here. The side effects are dizziness, confusion, drowsiness, loss of coordination, nervousness, memory problems, or speech and language problems. And also similar to some other medications, the use of alcohol or marijuana can increase these side effects. I also want to point out though that there was no marijuana found in Kenneka's system. It was simply alcohol. So the alcohol could very well have heightened these side effects. Now, after an autopsy came back, the cause of death for Kenneka was determined to be hypothermia. The exact sentence that was written on the report was hypothermia due to cold exposure in a freezer with ethanol and topiramate intoxication, a significant contributory conditions. And the manner of Kenneka's death was ruled accidental. So even with this case being ruled an accident, it's a closed case. The cause of death was hypothermia. If you guys are interested in the true crime world, or if you've just been on social media lately, this case has come to the spotlight again. There are so many different theories that follow this case, so many different conspiracies that people have. A lot of people believe that there was foul play involved in this case. And a lot of people believe that there's way more to the story than the public is being made aware of. So after Kenneka's body was discovered, authorities decided to finally go back and look at those surveillance tapes after her body had already been discovered to see if they could put the pieces of the puzzle together a little bit better. So when authorities looked into these surveillance tapes, they went back to the time that Kenneka had been missing when her friends had left her at the elevator to go and retrieve her belongings, and Kenneka is seen on surveillance footage going all the way down to the lower level of the hotel by herself. When she exits the elevator, she's seen wobbling back and forth, side to side, from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. She's seen grabbing onto the wall to hold her balance. She's stumbling. She's seen walking in to the stair rail that would have led up to the lobby, and she has to kind of hold on to the rail in order to keep herself from falling. The surveillance footage shows Kenneka walking into the men's restroom, and she's in there for about 45 seconds before she turns around and comes out. And it also shows that Kenneka walked into the unused kitchen by herself, and she is seen walking back to the corner of the room where the surveillance video stops because the camera angle doesn't go that far, and you see the shadow of the freezer door opening and then shutting, and Kenneka is never seen walking out of that kitchen again. Now, what's incredibly frustrating about this is that if Teresa's claims and requests to see the surveillance footage were taken seriously when she had first asked about it, we can't sit here and say that it definitely would have saved Kenneka's life. However, they would have found her a lot sooner. There would have been no question about it. The fact that they waited until after her body was discovered to look at surveillance footage is really mind-blowing to me, and I don't understand it, but that was just the way that they did things. Now, when Kenneka's body was discovered, the authorities are seen on surveillance footage pulling Teresa to the side into a conference room to give her the unfortunate news that her daughter's body had been found. On this surveillance footage, you see authorities bringing Teresa into this room, and moments later, you see Teresa running out of this room screaming. She runs into the lobby screaming. She's obviously hysterical. Now, once Teresa finally leaves the hotel, once she leaves the Crowne Plaza, she actually went on Facebook Live to update people on Kenneka's case. When she went on this Facebook Live, she told everyone that Kenneka's body had been discovered. She said that her daughter was dead and that it was accidental. There was no foul play involved, and that it was incredibly tragic and incredibly sad, but it was accidental. But then not too long after Kenneka's death, Teresa had actually appeared on the Dr. Oz show. She went on the Dr. Oz show with Nancy Grace, and when Nancy Grace and Teresa went on the show, they disclosed to Dr. Oz that they felt like Kenneka's death was not accidental. They felt like there was definitely foul play involved, some things just weren't adding up, things weren't making sense, and that Teresa fully wholeheartedly believes that Kenneka's death was not an accident. Teresa said that the condition that Kenneka's clothes were found in proves that there was someone else involved in Kenneka's death. And what she's referring to is when Kenneka's body was discovered, her shirt was pulled up and she was exposed. Now, Teresa said that because of this, there was obvious, sexual assault. Someone could have been really aggressive with her. And along with that, one of Kenneka's shoes, like I said earlier, was also found off of her foot. So based off of those two things, Teresa said she thinks that someone messed with Kenneka and that there was someone else involved. Along with this, Teresa said that the drug Topiramate that was found in Kenneka's system was not a drug that Kenneka took. It was not a prescription that she had, not a medication she took regularly, so someone had to have drugged her. But here's the thing, and I don't know how this is even able to be proven, but I think it's really, really amazing that technology has advanced this far. When the toxicology report was conducted and Topiramate was found in Kenneka's system, it was also discovered that this was not a one-time take for Kenneka. This is a drug that she had taken regularly. There were traces of it in her system in the past. Again, I'm not sure how they're able to figure that out, but it's really amazing that they're able to do that with technology. But basically what they were saying is that Kenneka had taken this prescription multiple times before. This was not something that she just found this night and decided to take it for the first time. Kenneka is 19 years old, so she's not underage. She's considered an adult, and if there was a prescription that she wanted to take that she didn't want her mom to know about, whether that was for a mood stabilizer, whether that was for weight loss, whatever it was, if she wanted to get the prescription for it and didn't want her mom to know about it, she probably could have gotten that done. Kenneka's medical reports have never been released to the public, so I don't know if this is something that authorities have looked into behind the scenes, but it would be interesting to see if this was something that she was either prescribed to or given to through a third party. After Kenneka's body had been discovered, authorities also approached Teresa and asked on 2 separate occasions to look through Kenneka's phone. Now, when authorities asked Teresa this, Teresa said no, she did not allow it. She did not want the police going through Kenneka's phone. I'm not sure if she ever gave a reason as to why she didn't want them to do this. I'm just making an assumption, which I don't like to do, but in this case, I feel like Teresa was probably just wanting to feel like she could still protect her daughter. She wanted to maintain her daughter's privacy. She wanted to have control over the situation in a world where she kind of just felt like everything shattered right in front of her and she had no control over anything. And the one thing she could control was Kenneka's cell phone. It was her lifeline. It was the closest thing she had to her at that point, so she didn't want authorities to go through it. So that's my belief on why she didn't want authorities to go through her phone. Maybe there's something else that I'm just completely unaware of, but that is what I believe. Now again, to kind of go back to what I was saying earlier, if you're familiar with this case, you're familiar with the countless conspiracies that come along with it. When you look up Kenneka Jenkins' name anywhere, YouTube, Google, Twitter, it comes up with a long list of possibilities that people have came up with and possible theories that people have came up with as to what could have happened to Kenneka that night. A lot of people think it's a big possibility that Kenneka's friends were involved in this. There's been a theory out there that Kenneka was sold by her friends for $200 into sex trafficking. There's theories out there that her friends are the ones that led her to the freezer and they were just looking for Kenneka as a cover-up to make it look like they were trying to help, when in reality they knew exactly where she was. One of the craziest theories out there that I have heard of, and I'm saying this because I want you to know the extremes that people are going to with this case. One of the craziest theories I think I've ever heard, not just with this case, I think that I've ever heard, is the theory that Kenneka's death was around the time that Selena Gomez needed a kidney transplant. Yes, we're talking Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez needed a kidney transplant and she didn't want to have to wait on the transplant list, and she needed a kidney right there, right now, and Kenneka was basically killed to give her organs away to Selena Gomez. It's absolutely ludicrous. It is so ludicrous and it's insulting. It is so insulting to this case. It's insulting to Kenneka. The fact that we're saying Selena Gomez guys wanted to, like, it's just, I don't even want to say it because I think that it's so insulting to this case. But the reason I'm sharing it with you is because I want to show you how far people are reaching with this one. So many people out there are looking for foul play in this case. They're looking for someone to point the finger at. And I do want to say that authorities did interview 44 people, and it was confirmed that 30 of the 44 people were in attendance at some point to the party in room 927 that night. Now, when it comes to Kenneka's clothes and how Teresa was saying Kenneka's shirt was kind of pulled up a little bit and she looked exposed, scientists have actually come up with a term for this because this is not completely uncommon when someone is going through the stages of hypothermia. The exact term for this is called paradoxical undressing. Now, this is essentially what happens in the final stages of hypothermia, and what ends up happening is your body basically tricks you into thinking that instead of being freezing, you're actually overheating. So your body is tricked into thinking that you're really, really, really hot. And so sometimes what will happen is people will actually feel like they need to remove their clothes because they're so hot. And so that is what paradoxical undressing is. So authorities have kind of chalked Kenneka's shirt being pulled up to paradoxical undressing because there was no other injuries found on Kenneka. There was no evidence of sexual assault. There was no evidence that she had been strangled. There is no evidence of anything else other than hypothermia. But regardless of all of these explanations that have been given by authorities, people really feel in their heart of hearts like something else happened here. Now, when I was thinking about theories and reading theories online, the one that I kind of was swaying with the most, if we're talking about there was foul play involved, something else had to have happened, someone else had to have been involved, I do think that it may be possible that Kenneka was slipped something in her drink that night that was untraceable. Do I think that this person maybe did this for the reason that they wanted Kenneka to die? No, I don't think that. I personally, if I'm just being honest, I don't know a lot about prescriptions and drugs and what is traceable and what's untraceable. So I'm not one to sit here and say, this is what it could have been, this is what it could have been, this is the name of it. I don't know. But if there was something out there that was untraceable that someone put into Kenneka's drink, that could explain her level of intoxication, because based off of the surveillance footage, you guys, Kenneka was so intoxicated. And a lot of us out there have had our nights. We have had our not greatest moments. But Kenneka, when I watched the surveillance footage, it just looked like there was more to it than a girl who was just really, really drunk. She was stumbling everywhere. She couldn't keep her balance, which, yes, are the causes and side effects of someone who is intoxicated. However, she just looked very delirious and confused. And again, that could be because of the topiramate. But if we're looking at possible theories here, I think maybe it is possible that with the topiramate, with the alcohol, and if someone did slip her something in a drink, that could have also played a part into why she was so intoxicated that night. I do want to point out that there was never anyone seen leaving the kitchen or entering the kitchen after Kenneka until the person who found her body walked in. So it wasn't like Kenneka walked into this kitchen, she's never seen again, and someone else walked out of the kitchen. That was never the case. No one was ever even seen walking into the kitchen after her until the assistant food and beverage manager walked in and discovered her body. So Teresa filed a $50 million lawsuit against Crowne Plaza. And what this lawsuit basically entailed was multiple things. It said, first, the party should have been shut down. Crowne Plaza had received multiple different noise complaints. There were underage kids up there. It was a complete over-occupancy in a room. There was drinking, there was drugs. The party should have been shut down. So that was the first thing in the lawsuit. The lawsuit also stated that the kitchen that Kenneka walked into should have been closed off. Having just a do not enter or employees only signs are not enough to completely deter someone, obviously, from just walking in there. And lastly, the lawsuit claims that the hotel staff was extremely negligent in helping Teresa find Kenneka when she initially told them. Now, right now, Kenneka's case is a closed case. Authorities have said, while this is an incredibly sad and tragic accident, it is an accident. Now, if you guys have been watching my true crime videos for a while, you know that I am always one who says you should never leave any stone left unturned. You have to look at the case from every single angle and every possibility of what could have happened to the victim. And it's really important to look at the facts. That way you're able to rule out theories as they come in order to conclude on the one that is actually true. So because of that, I do understand why there are so many theories out there as to what could have happened to Kenneka. But I do want to say, I really think it's important important to look at straight facts here. Something that we don't get in a lot of cases is footage of the victim literally moments or seconds before their last seen. And with Kenneka's case, we have that. We have the footage of her walking through the lower level. We have the footage of her walking into the kitchen by herself. And we have the footage of her never walking out. There was no one seen following Kenneka that night throughout the lower level. There was no one seen on the lower level in general at the time that Kenneka was down there. Kenneka was the only person down there at that time. Personally, I think a lot of people are reaching in this case. And I understand why, because I think a lot of people aren't satisfied with the idea that Kenneka got really drunk. She walked down by herself because she was left alone to this lower level and ended up walking into this kitchen and ended up walking into this freezer. Which, mind you, when the freezer door shuts, all the lights go off. So Kenneka, already being extremely intoxicated and now in the complete pitch black, she's probably going to be very confused and not be able to see anything. She doesn't have her cell phone. She doesn't have a flashlight. She's in the complete pitch black darkness. Again, I do think it's possible that she was maybe slipped something into a drink that she wasn't aware of and it just hasn't been traceable. But personally, when it comes to this case, I think that the amount of theories in this case has actually hurt it more than it has helped it. With so many theories going around, reaching as far as Selena Gomez wanting a kidney, it really weakens the integrity of this case. And Kenneka does not deserve that. Kenneka does not deserve to be the girl who is known all throughout tabloids, by the way, as the girl, the freezer girl. I've seen freezer girl, I've seen girl walks into a freezer. Everyone has just kind of paired her name with freezer, and it's so disrespectful. Her name is Kenneka Jenkins. Her name is not freezer girl. Her name is not girl walks into a freezer. It's Kenneka Jenkins. She was a person. And going as far as these outlandish theories, I think really hurt this case more than it helps it. I think that there are theories out there that make sense. I'm not saying that every theory out there is just like insulting and doesn't make sense and why are we even thinking like that. There are a lot of theories out there that make sense. So I'm all for those. I think that they're so great to talk about what happened and talk about theories and rule things out and add things in. I think is so amazing. But when we're reaching so far, I think it really ends up hurting the case more than it's helping it. But that is all we really have on this case. Like I said, it's a closed case, but I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say about it. What is your theory? Do you think Kenneka was slipped something into a drink? Do you think that foul play was involved? Do you think that this was just a tragic accident? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below your theories, your thoughts. And with that being said, you guys, that is going to be all from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another true crime episode here on my YouTube channel. If you are new here, hi, my name's Savannah. I make videos 3 days a week, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. You should subscribe and join the family. I love you guys so much, and I'll be back in a couple days with a brand new video. Bye, guys.